You know that feeling, right? You're using an AI tool, and one second it feels like absolute magic, and then the next, it's so frustrating you just want to give up. Well, we're going to dive into exactly why that happens and what it tells us about a really deep paradox at the heart of AI design. Yeah, we've all been there. The AI can whip up this incredible, stunning image in just a few seconds, but then it completely fumbles a tiny little specific change you ask for. So what's going on? How can AI be so powerful and so clumsy at the very same time? Well, the answer really lies in a fundamental design dilemma. Okay, so the root of the problem is this basic conflict baked right into AI design. Say every single tool is trying to do two totally different things at once. It needs to create this engaging, inspiring visual experience, and it also needs to deliver a precise, rule-following correct output. All right, let's break this down, because this is where it gets really interesting. On one side, you've got the engaging experience. This is all the fun stuff, the visuals, the mood boards, the rough sketches. It's actually pretty cheap for the AI to generate. We as users get a ton of value out of it, and hey, if it's a little bit wrong, no big deal. We call that failing gracefully. But then you have the precise output. This is the hardcore, rule-abiding, perfectly correct data. This is expensive for the AI to create, and the crazy part is its value is totally invisible, right up until it breaks. And when it breaks, it's not graceful at all. It's catastrophic. So you can see the problem here. Designers are stuck trying to balance these two totally different kinds of failure in the same product. And if you get that balance wrong, the app either becomes way too expensive to run or way too frustrating for anyone to use. Or, both. This quote it nails the whole issue. Think about it. The first little bit of effort, that first 20%, gives you that wow moment. The first draft, the initial idea, that's 80% of what feels like the experience. The other 80% of the work, that's the invisible, hard grind to get everything perfect. And honestly, as users, we don't even notice it's happening until it goes wrong. So, here's the crucial point. It's not just about the cost. The real tension for both users and designers comes from how these two modes fail. It's literally the difference between a tiny little hiccup and a total show-stopping disaster. Just look at this comparison. A graceful failure, right? That's when you get a render and maybe the lighting is a bit off. It's still useful. You can still look at it and make a decision. But a catastrophic failure, that's when one single piece of bad data means your entire file just won't import. Boom, the whole process just grinds to a halt. The stakes are in completely different universes. So how in the world do we solve this paradox? Well, the answer isn't to just pick one mode and ignore the other. The answer is to design a workflow that cleverly puts them in the right order. And we call this the precision journey. And here's the thing. This journey solves a much deeper problem than just managing how much the AI costs to run. It solves the attention problem. It's all about where we want the user to focus their limited brain power at any given moment. This quote just hits the nail on the head. Imagine the AI generates this beautiful building design, but it puts the wrong kind of tree in the front garden. Your brain immediately gets stuck on it. Your visual cortex is just screaming, "That's the wrong tree." And all that mental energy is being wasted on something totally irrelevant when it should be focused on the actual layout of the building. So the solution is actually a classic design idea, just applied in a totally new way: progressive disclosure for fidelity. It basically means you are deliberately controlling the level of detail the user is even allowed to see at each stage. That tree, it doesn't even exist yet, because right now it shouldn't exist. You focus the user's attention only on what really matters. Okay, so that's the big idea. But how do we actually build this journey? Let's get into the mechanics of what makes this whole thing work. This journey breaks down into 4 really clear steps. You start broad, you start fun, explore visually. Then you ask the user to actually commit to a decision. It's only after that commitment that the system spends its expensive resources to validate that choice precisely. And finally, you reveal the more detailed result, and you treat it like a reward. What's so cool about this is that this sequence creates this incredibly powerful, almost addictive feedback loop for the user. You make a decision, you get rewarded with a reveal, a richer picture, more detail, and that little hit of dopamine makes you want to make the next decision, which just pulls you right through the whole process. Now, to make that loop feel real and substantial, you need some structure. You need these gates between the stages that feel like you're making a real commitment. You use checklists to guide the user. You have to offer meaningful rewards, and you sprinkle the whole thing with satisfying little micro-interactions. But here's a really important detail.
The checklist isn't just some boring to-do list. It's a teaching tool. A good checklist should guide you like an expert would, explaining why you have to make certain decisions at certain times. It's the difference between filling out a government form and having a consultation with a pro. The rewards themselves are also super clever because they're doing double duty. That 3D fly-through you get at the end of a stage, that isn't just for fun. Yeah, it's a dopamine hit, for sure, but it's also a validation artifact. It's your chance as the user to look at what you've made and say, yep, that's exactly what I wanted, before you move on and spend even more of the AI's expensive brainpower.
And hey, let's be real. Never underestimate the power of a little celebration. A subtle animation, a satisfying sound, these small moments of joy, they really work. They signal that you've completed something and they reinforce that amazing feeling of making progress. So when you bring all of these pieces together, you're not just designing a tool anymore. You're designing a partner. It completely reframes how we think about humans and AI working together. And ultimately, it all comes down to this. The wrong way to build one of these tools is to make it feel like a boring form with a little preview window on the side. The right way, the precision journey, makes it feel like a genuine collaboration between you and the machine. Each of you does what you do best in the right order. So the next time you use an AI tool, or maybe even build one, ask yourself this one question. Is this just a powerful but kind of dumb tool that's forcing you to do all the thinking? Or is it a true collaborator, one that's guiding you on a journey from a fuzzy idea to a perfectly finished product? Because that difference, well, that difference is everything.